Hello everyone, my name is Wilken and I will be discussing a study on intercultural business negotiations. International trade has dramatically increased in recent decades. Therefore, business negotiations are also increasingly international. However, people from different cultures differ in their preferred negotiation behavior. To explain these cultural differences, prior studies often rely on the individualism-collectivism continuum. Collectivist negotiators, by tendency, try to increase both sides' economic outcomes and behave more integratively. On the other hand, individualistic negotiators often focus on their own profit, using distributive strategies more often. This clash of cultures is often also mirrored in different negotiation goals, beliefs about what is important in social interaction, and views on appropriate conduct during negotiation. The distance between national cultures can impede communication in general and cooperation in negotiations in particular. Negotiators often view adaptation to their counterparts' cultural norms as a potential remedy to these conflicts. Adaptation might reduce the threat of perceptions of inappropriate behaviors or misunderstandings. In the words of Adair and Brett, adaptation involves an emergent process that happens as negotiators discover each other's styles, interpret each other's goals, and gradually begin to move in sync. Our study addresses the following two questions. First, which factors determine the degree of adaptation of both negotiation parties? And second, if there is an asymmetric adaptation, what are the consequences for that adapting party with respect to negotiation outcomes? To address these questions, the current research investigates negotiations between teams and individuals. Most experimental studies on intercultural negotiations focus on one-to-one negotiations. In practice, however, companies often prefer teams over individual negotiators for several reasons. Teams have access to greater expertise and possess the ability to implement more complex strategies than a solo negotiator can ever pull off. These two characteristics should eventually help them outperform solo negotiators, economically speaking. This research thus offers three main contributions. First, it tests whether negotiation by a team causes solo bargainers to adapt to negotiation strategies that are not typical in their own cultural background, but rather are more conventional to the culture of their team counterpart. Second, this research analyzes the relationship between the use of negotiation strategies and economic negotiation outcomes for outnumbered negotiators. Some studies suggest that cooperation may help overcome dominance, but no prior research has tested this relationship in intercultural settings, despite the practical relevance. Third, the study tests whether teams perform better than individuals in intercultural settings using simulated negotiations and observed real behavior, rather than conventional self-reported questionnaire measures or interviews. The empirical results show that in team solo negotiations, individuals abandon their cultural-bound negotiation style and instead adapt to their team counterparts' use of strategies. Moreover, there is no role effect. Individual buyers adapt as much to selling teams as do individual sellers to buying teams. The behavioral adaptation of individual negotiators also impacts negotiation outcomes. Adaptation to the increased use of integrative strategies results in higher individual profits, but only if the opposing teams have high levels of collectivism. Conversely, in a one-on-one setting, adaptation disappeared. The empirical results suggest that teams can push their culturally preferred negotiation style in an attempt to reach their negotiation goals. By interacting with individual negotiators with cultural backgrounds that differ from those of their team counterparts, bargaining teams affect the negotiation strategies of both parties. More collectivistic team members bring greater cooperativeness to the bargaining table, whereas less collectivistic team members lead in a more distributive direction. finally, the dominance of teams in bargaining interactions with solo opponents affects both parties' economic outcomes, but teams outperform solo negotiators in intercultural business negotiations. Still, outnumbered negotiators can improve their position by applying integrative strategies. In the empirical studies, the solo bargaining's use of integrative strategies likely resulted from his or her adaptation to the opposing team's behavior and level of collectivism. Adapting to the team thus is beneficial, but only when the team has relatively high levels of collectivism. In any case, if you are negotiating while outnumbered, it is a good idea to use integrative strategies to preserve a chance of a good negotiation outcome for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. You can also access other research projects that I have collaborated in through that same link, and thank you for watching.